So, where have I been? Well, my health took a turn for the worst, and now I'm much closer to dialysis, transplant, or death than I was before. But is it as a result of my carnivore diet? I'm going to talk about that in this video. And do note that this video is an addendum to my previous video called High Triglycerides on a Carnivore or Keto Diet, which contains information that I shared but need to warn you about because I'm no longer confident in some of the things that I said. But first, if you could please take a moment to like the video and press the subscribe button and click the notification bell, this will help make the YouTube algorithm happy, and a happy algorithm helps get this information to others who are also concerned about their triglycerides or chronic kidney disease while on a carnivore diet. And if you know someone who struggles with these conditions like I do, I'd appreciate if you share this video with them. Welcome to Carnivore Talk. My name is Bob. Now, in my previous video about high triglycerides, I explained that I have had high triglycerides for as long as I can remember, at least 5 years. And I've had numbers that average pretty much in the 700s consistently. Now, normally, you want your triglycerides to be less than 150. This is most likely related to my stage 4 chronic kidney disease, which I've also done a video on. After I started the carnivore diet, I lost weight rapidly and I reversed and cured several of my health problems and chronic conditions. Things like skin tags, brain fog, ulcerative colitis being one of the big ones, bleeding gums, and so much more. But when I had a lipid panel done, my triglycerides had spiked to almost 3,000. This, quite frankly, scared the crap out of me. And this is because we often hear that trigs over 1,000 could result in pancreatitis, and that a triglyceride to HDL ratio greater than 2:1 could put you at higher risk for coronary artery disease. With my trigs at 2,880 and my HDL at a measly 16, my ratio was 180:1. And knowing that most CKD patients die from coronary artery disease and not from kidney issues, I was basically already dead. My primary care physician also freaked the hell out. So he prescribed me fenofibrate, which I spoke about in a favorable light in my previous video. I also explained the mechanism of how fenofibrate works to lower triglycerides. Now, I didn't start taking this drug blindly. I did some initial research because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a statin. And it's not. And that initial research turned up several websites on mainstream health websites that indicated that while there might be a slight bump in serum creatinine levels when taking it, this did not mean you were doing further kidney damage. So I'm here to tell you now that this is absolute horseshit. Why do I feel this way? Because my first 6 months of the carnivore diet was a beautiful thing. I fixed several health issues and was even making little micro improvements, no miracles, but little micro improvements in my kidneys. But in November 2023, I had this triglyceride scare. I tried to address it with over-the-counter niacin and with this prescription for fenofibrate. Shortly after I started taking these, I started to suffer from insane nighttime leg cramps. But at the time, I didn't make the connection between my severe leg cramps and muscle spasms with any medications or supplements I was taking. Why not? Because when you bring up leg cramps to your common carnivore doctors or to others in the carnivore community, they will usually recommend taking electrolytes. And this makes sense because electrolyte deficiency can indeed cause muscle cramps and twitching. Former carnivore diet pioneer Paul Saladino abandoned the carnivore diet due to electrolyte imbalances and muscle cramps, often mentioning that insulin signaling at the kidney helps retain these minerals. I have chronic kidney disease, and insulin signaling at the kidney, well, all this seems to make sense. So I started taking LMNT and Keto Chow daily minerals. But because of my kidney disease, I did have to get regular labs done to test my electrolytes. My potassium skyrocketed to unsafe levels, so I had to stop taking these electrolytes, stop taking the LMNT, stop taking the daily minerals, and instead I started focusing on certain specific electrolytes instead. It seemed like my kidneys didn't want to excrete potassium, so I avoided that. But it also seemed like I hoarded or I spilled magnesium, so I supplemented that. I would even take spoonfuls of salt at bedtime with water just to try and alleviate the cramps so I could get a good night's sleep. These efforts helped somewhat, but I would still have nights where I would be forced awake by charley horses, foot cramps, or hamstring cramps, which I tell you is the worst pain imaginable. That's the muscle that connects the knee to the inner thigh, and believe me, I would rather die than experience those kind of cramps again. Well, I continued to suffer with these cramps almost every night throughout most of 2024. When summer came, I tried switching to an animal-based diet, incorporating some fruits. After all, this apparently helped Paul Saladino, but it did nothing for me. I didn't gain weight, I didn't fight cravings, and it certainly didn't fix my cramping issues. And so since then, I returned to a stricter carnivore-centric diet. In early August, however, there was this 3-day event that I had to attend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that required me to get up and go early in the morning. Now, I usually take my supplements with a meal, but on these 3 days, I had to get up and go, so I didn't have my first meal at home, so I didn't take these. Now, to my amazement, I slept like a baby all 3 nights. No pain, no cramps, no muscle twitches, and I felt like I got quality sleep. So this tipped me off that maybe these cramps are related to something I'm consuming. And so I started to do some more digging. Now, one of the supplements I started taking on my own that previous November was niacin. And when you take niacin, it gives you a burning sensation called a skin flush after you take it. My initial research turned up articles and studies that said that niacin was good for lowering triglycerides and LDL and was even beneficial for kidneys. But now that I was digging deeper, I found more studies. And these studies said that the use of high-dose niacin in patients with end-stage renal disease, that'd be me, increased the risk of all-cause mortality and rhabdomyolysis. Rhabdomyolysis is muscle wasting, and I was having muscle cramps. And so a possible connection here seemed to make sense to me. Maybe muscle wasting was also why my creatinine levels had started to rise. So I stopped taking the niacin, but I did resume my other pills, namely vitamin D3, K2, and the fenofibrate. Initially, my cramps continued to be subsided, and I thought I found the culprit. But as time went by, slowly and gradually, the muscle cramps started to return, and I figured that's because I had stopped taking electrolytes. So I started to try and mitigate them with electrolytes again. After all, I do have late-stage kidney disease, and people with late-stage kidney disease have trouble balancing electrolytes. But in October, I had another visit with my primary care physician who ordered some routine blood work, a lipid panel, and a CMP, which is a complete metabolic panel. And the results were downright alarming. My creatinine had more than doubled, reading 8.18, and this in turn dropped my eGFR, or estimated glomerular filtration rate, down to an 8. Now, mind you, anything under 15 usually means you need immediate dialysis. This also means that I technically have gone from stage 4 to stage 5 CKD. But the weird thing is, I should be suffering all kinds of symptoms. Many people start experiencing symptoms when they hit stage 3B, and here I am still feeling great and symptom-free. So something doesn't add up. My primary care physician, though, in a panic, rushes the results over to my nephrologist. And my nephrologist's office contacts me and asks me a bunch of questions. Have you been sick recently? Have you had a hospital stay? You were doing so well. What changed? I then did a 24-hour urine test, which gave better results that were more in harmony with how good I feel, and a cystatin C, which did go up, unfortunately, dropping my EGR when calculated using cystatin C from 23 to 19, indicating further kidney damage. So, what changed? That question lingered in my head. My initial thought was nothing changed. But then I thought back to that weekend in August when I slept like a baby with no nighttime cramps at all. when I had gone several days without taking anything and concluded, maybe incorrectly at the time, that it was the niacin. Because at the same time I started taking niacin in November of 23, I was also prescribed the fenofibrate. And I remembered that fenofibrate was known to increase serum creatinine, but supposedly didn't cause any kidney damage. Maybe I blamed the wrong supplement or the wrong medication. To test my theory, I stopped taking fenofibrate. Immediately, my nighttime cramps and muscle twitches went away, and I was able to sleep peacefully again without any electrolyte supplementation. This was in October, and honestly, I have yet to resume any electrolyte supplementation, and I still don't have muscle cramps or twitches anymore. Well, this motivated me to do some deeper digging and more thorough research, but this time into fenofibrate, the medicine that my primary care physician assumed would have been safe for me. My deep research has produced a lot of bad news, and I don't have words to describe just how upset and angry I am over this. Well, I can think of the words, but I'm not going to use them. But I want to share with you some examples. In the journal Diabetes Care, published by the American Diabetes Association, we can read about a study on fenofibrates. If you look here under results, we read that 1, plasma creatinine increased. That's bad. Creatinine clearance decreased. That's also bad. And cystatin C increased. And this is also bad. The paper gives even more details in the conclusion section towards the bottom of the page, which says, we observed a 14% increase of cystatin C levels in the fenofibrate group, suggesting impairment of renal function. And it has been suggested that fibrates increase the production of creatinine with no adverse effect on renal function. This seems unlikely. These statements are alarming to me and don't make me happy one bit. In another study entitled Effect of Fenofibrate Medication on Renal Function, we read that fibrates have been associated with renal dysfunction, and the results of this study showed that patients in the fenofibrate group showed greater changes in serum creatinine levels and had significantly greater declines in the estimated glomerular filtration rate than those in the control group who were not given fenofibrate. And finally, according to WebMD, not that WebMD constitutes deep research, but if you look here, some of the more serious side effects of taking fenofibrate includes muscle problems. Fenofibrate can cause muscle problems, including muscle pain, weakness, and tenderness called myopathy. In some people, the muscle may break down, rhabdomyolysis, which can be serious and rarely lead to kidney damage and death. Stop taking fenofibrate and get help right away if you have any of the following symptoms of myopathy or rhabdomyolysis. And look what's here on this list, muscle cramps. So, I shouldn't have been taking fenofibrate all along. And if you scroll down further in the page, you see this important section here. It says kidney problems. Fenofibrate should not be used if your kidneys are not working as well as they should be. If there's concern about the health of your kidneys, your healthcare provider may do tests to determine if they're working well enough to take this medication. Sadly, some of these studies conclude that the damage is permanent. But then some of these other studies will indicate that the creatinine will go down and the eGFR will improve when you stop taking fenofibrate. So, I have that hope to hold on to. So why does this happen? The prevailing theory in these more positive studies is that fenofibrate causes serum creatinine to increase because creatinine clearance decreases. That is, you urinate less of it out, and therefore it starts to build up and back up in your system. Therefore, I'm going to have to keep monitoring my renal function markers and see if there's any improvement. Only time will tell. And I'll test my renal function and I'll share it in an update with all of you as soon as I get the results. Hopefully, I'll start to see my creatinine and cystatin C go down, resulting in better and higher eGFR calculations. But here's the important message that I want you to take away from this video. Do not take fenofibrate if you have chronic kidney disease. And even if your kidneys are fine, be very cautious about taking it long term and get your labs checked regularly, at least every 3 months and maybe even more frequently. You can use altalabtest.com or ownyourlabs.com or some other online service to get affordable blood work instead of having to deal with your doctor or insurance companies. But also, remember, outside of these numbers on my lab results, I would have no idea that I have chronic kidney disease. I have no signs or symptoms of CKD. I still feel fantastic. In fact, I feel better now at 49 years of age than I had felt in all my 40s and even my late 30s. And all of this is thanks to my carnivore or carnivore-centric proper human diet. My nephrologist is still on board with this way of eating, and he still suggests that I eat a protein-heavy diet and continue to do so. And I'm confident that the consumption of animal proteins is not doing any further harm to my kidneys. I will continue to test and I will continue to share my results with you here on my channel and over at carnivoretalk.com. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. This helps get the word out to those who need it. Feel free to share it in your social media groups, and especially when you see others asking about chronic kidney disease or high triglycerides while on a carnivore diet. And if you have had success with a carnivore diet or even a carnivore-ish diet, please reach out to me in the show notes below so we can do a carnivore-centered video together. My name is Bob, and I'll see you soon.